Go to Bill.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, I'd like to call this meeting of the Greenwood Water Wastewater Commission to order. It is 6 o'clock, Monday, January the 27th at 2025, excuse me. And Charlotte, would you call for attendance?
Yes. Chad Martin,
Here.
Jim Reynolds,
Yes.
Alex Selkirk,
Here.
and John Bailey.
Here.
There's a quorum. AC Brown is not present.
Okay, we'll move right on. You've been emailed the minutes from the previous commission meeting in November, because we didn't have a regular meeting in December. And then we had a special call meeting in December. Those minutes are attached. Everyone has had a chance to look at those, and I'll entertain a motion that we accept them, or if anyone has any corrections that need to be made, please
I'll
let me
make a
know.
motion that we accept all three as read or as presented.
Yeah, there's a January 7th one in there too.
Okay,
Yeah.
January 7th, I missed that.
I second.
All right, we have a motion to accept all of the minutes presented to us in a second. Would you call for a vote?
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Selker?
Yes.
Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
All right. You have an agenda in front of you. Would anyone like to add anything to the agenda? Okay, we don't have any requests for agenda additions. We'll move right on to Tom. Tom, would you give us our financial update, please?
Yes, you didn't have a meeting in December, so you don't have the November specific, but you have the year-end specific. So I wanted to give you that. The first thing that we look at are the graphical depiction of how you did for 2024. That's the beginning of the year here and the ending of the year there. So this is the area you're going to be focusing on. It's January all the way to November and December. And you do see it took a nosedive. That's typical for historically for that period of time, as far as gallons of water sold, which is your revenue stream. And then their water accounts, you see a 7-year growth, and then you'll see right in this area, it took another dip. So it's been coming down for the last 3 months to the end of the year. And then sewer accounts did the same thing. So you're looking at the amounts being on the downward trend there. Still positive growth over a 7-year period. The fund report, this is the actual fund report for the end of the year. You ended with all-in funds at $7.9 million, and a lot of that is going to be moved, but we'll have to do a resolution to do so in order to allow those accounts to be folded into the sewer O&M checking. And we'll talk about that at another meeting because I'm going to actually have to do the transfer as well of the $972,000 out of the general fund. The general fund unrestricted monies are going to come over to you. That's the surplus money that was created, or the actual amount of money that was created by the redeploying of the ARPA money. So that's coming to you for your primarily your capital under the city sales and use tax for your movement of the utilities for the road project. Okay, so if you looked at your operating, you ended with $6.8 million in the 3 main operating accounts. These are the water O&M, the sewer O&M, and then the city sales and use tax fund balance. So that's the breakout. You do notice that there was a little bit of a decline, $121,000 in the water side. The sewer fared very well, primarily due to the rate increase that helped them, bolstered them immensely. I'll give you a little bit more on that in a minute, but what we see is the total all-in funds rose 13.79%, and the operating monies rose 12.72% for the year. And you'll see a little bit about how that impacts things later. Here's the city sales and use tax. I'll get in a little bit more in that, but you do see that we ended the year with a monthly distribution to the city for your department specifically of $168,406. This thing keeps popping off right there. And we did end up, we had some peaks and valleys, this being a troubled period between June, July, and August. That was where I had some issues about whether I thought we were going to actually meet our projected 4.5%. We ended up over 6% for the year. As far as the city sales and use tax, this is how it broke out. You see, we went down below the 4.5% for July, August, September, came up above the 4.5% in October. November went rather well. There was some month over month major increases. And then you see 6.42 is where we actually ended the year. Now, the county sales tax doesn't affect you, but we ended up in the red. We ended up actually below flat by almost 1%. But we are budgeting that flat for the year. So that's neither here nor there for the water department. I do want to show you something, though. We did receive last week the city sales and use tax and the county sales tax numbers for the month of January. And the city sales and use tax is starting off the year negative 1.45% over the previous. That does affect you guys to the tune of your distribution. That's a little high. We started last year at 0.82%, I believe it was, in January, which was a growth, but it wasn't anywhere near the 4.5% that we normally would see that would be tracking to get that. So that's interesting. I'm going to have to do a deeper dive on this week to find out what's really going on with the taxable sales. As far as the county sales tax is concerned, we were up 1.51%. It flopped. And I have to go, that is something I do want to track down. I want to find out what's going on there. As far as the capital improvements is concerned, or the capital expenditures as a whole, this is not reflecting the city. This is reflecting just your department, the water sewer department. It's a percent spent year to date including the budget adjustments that were made throughout the year. Spent $2 million on a $9 million budget, which is 21.85%. You have 44.7% spent, I think, on the capital side, but way low on the project side. And that's where all the big dollars are. As far as the amount past due over 60 days, this is now reflecting the full year. Started out with a amount past due over 60 at 49.9. We are at the end of December, ended at 70,273. That's an increase of 40.82%. As far as the number of past due accounts over 60 days, we kind of leveled off a little bit between August, September, October, and November, stayed pretty much flat. And then December took off, 1,188 accounts. And that from January to December is 11.03%. And now the good news is that we stem the tide. This is the number of shutoffs. These are not the accounts that are in the over 60 day and over and beyond. These are accounts that are still active, but in the months of October, and then it went up a little bit in November, but it's down to below 100 accounts of shutoffs rather. That was originally designed. And as you know, those are as of the cutoff date, those are the ones that were scheduled to be cut off, but then they have, as they go through the actual shutoff, they have things that they pay or they extensions. Yeah.
Various different things, and they come and pay at the last minute. We had 67 today. Physical turnoff, 67.
And that percentage difference, is that normal? About a third of them cut out?
I wouldn't say a
Third.
but it is significant. It can be a significant amount.
Yeah. That's what comes off the system at that morning, saying that's how many shutoffs and work orders they would have. And then they work those throughout the day. And that's it. Later, you'll hear about your audit. I'll be giving you that information during the agenda items.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for Tom?
And maybe a question, Tim, but have we started going after past due accounts yet? Has that been implemented?
I just got, Teresa just got some information to me today.
Yeah.
Just got it today. We have it, but it is on the to-do list. It is coming as soon as we get caught up. This is caught up day to day, and we couldn't do anything today, but we're things to do is to move forward on that, all accounts. Our prior, I think what we voted on was accounts 2 years and older. I think that's my memory. Unless y'all want that to be a, smaller window. We've got some questions for the collection people. And they're like, for instance, if they go into collections and someone moves back to Greenwood, and they want to get their water tank going. So we've kind of got them there. Can we collect it? Or once we turn it over to the collection people, do they have to collect it? And then what? So there are a few things to resolve. And, we had the holidays, and I wasn't sure that they were, I just felt it was better time for something.
Yeah, it was really my fault not passing it on. We just had bigger fish that we were dealing with, but
We didn't get that clear off.
yeah, I've suggested that we get Charla and Tom and Tim and Amber and maybe one of us to meet physically with those people and ask some of these questions out there that we need to know for sure. I know I have one in particular in that obviously I deal with them a little bit with insurance. The insurance companies use them a lot, and we have problems with the insured making the payment, and then the collection agency continues to hound them. So we've got to get it clear as to how the communication go and stuff.
Well, I would think that'd be one thing, like in that event that somebody did move back to Greenwood, you know, if they're right there, I said, boy, that's what we'd want to do is to collect the money while they're here applying or whatever.
If they owe us money before we set up an account, you can collect the money, but I don't know what the policy is on that. There's just some things to solve, but we will be moving on that. It's on the list, and we just need to get that whittled down, get that written off. And I guess my question is, are y'all still, the reason we moved it out to 2 years is because Carla was having people that came back in our old system. Once it went off the books, it was lost. It was gone. The new system, they can keep it. So do you want to shorten that window down as a group? Do you want to do that to a year, or what's typical? I don't know. Because it's just showing up every month. So 2 years now to me seems like a long time before we turned over to collections. At the time, it seemed.
You're saying wait until 2 years to turn
No,
it
that's
over?
what we voted on.
To wait until it's overdue for 2 years
Mhm.
and then send it.
I guess I didn't remember
That's-
voting on that
yeah,
either.
I-
That seems like a
I
very
don't
long
remember
time.
that, but
No,
I emailed.
60
Yeah,
days.
no, he's got 2 years to, yeah, I think it was.
What the, yeah, I think it's before you,
It was before me, but that was going back 2 years, I think. Like, we're not going to collect on anything that's over 2 years old right now, is what I thought you sent me. But as far as backlog, I mean, 60 days, we need to be sending this stuff out. I mean, I would think 60, 90 at least.
yeah, we originally set it up for like 60 or 90, and then Carla said that was too quick. She was the office manager at that time. So I brought it back before this group, and I think Steve was the chairman, Steve Rader at the time. I may be wrong. And I'll have to look it up. I don't have that in front of me, but I believe we were leaving it on there again because once we took it, at that time, we were just going to wipe it off the books. Once we take it off the books, it was lost. And then if someone come in, we would have lost that record. And now we have better software that keeps that information.
I think we're talking two different things
Oh,
here.
okay.
I think he's talking about how far are we going to go back to start to collect.
Right. That's
And
what
then-
I was
but I
thinking.
think-
2 years was
Yeah.
the answer to that.
Well,
But I don't think we ever established at what point do we turn them over? Did we?
I don't remember that.
Mm-mm.
Is that in the agreement
No,
at all?
Mm-mm. No, we'd have to
we
decide
never
that.
established it.
well,
I'm gonna
We
go
can
back
cer-
in minutes and look.
Okay.
I guess my question is, at what time do we want to consider them to be turned over to collections? Because we have people that, for various different reasons, are delinquent and get caught up. A lot of them typically.
Did Amber have a recommendation? Because you said 3 months was too short, she felt like.
That was Carla at the
I mean,
time.
Carla.
So what's it, 60 days? When do they not have water anymore? So
Let
when,
me bring Amber in here.
Yes,
She might
please.
could answer this better.
My recollection, according to the policy, the 2-year period was after 2 years, it's written off.
yeah, that's what
Yeah,
the
exactly.
2 years.
Yeah.
That's what our current policy is. Not when you turn it over, or how far back you look.
Exactly. Yeah.
After 2 years, if it's still on the books, we write it off the books.
But we could go back as far as 2 years.
While we're waiting for Amber really quickly, this was a schedule that obviously got hidden. I don't know why. But when I went ahead and put it together, this is the sewer revenue pre and post rate increase. And our budget was for 118% increase. We ended up at 115, right at just under 114.76. A lot of factors go into that. The sale of the water and the service for sewer is one. Number of customers leaving that have sewer is two. But the delayed implementation lost revenue was about $73,000. If you'll notice January's number versus if we had done it at December and that rate increase we hit in January probably would have been at that close to that 118. It would have been a little bit more actually. I just wanted you to see what that delay cost you as far as rates and as far as revenue stream. And you did come in about 3.25 under.
Amber, we have a few questions that we hope you could answer. The first question is, at what point do you feel would be appropriate to turn someone over for collections?
I would say after a year. I mean, I don't see why we hold on to it for a year.
Okay.
Would you be opposed to any shorter time than that?
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. I just didn't know if y'all were thinking longer than a year. I wouldn't
no.
go any longer. I
So
mean,
how
maybe
long
6
when
months.
someone, when they get the shut off, okay, so you pay your bill or you get your bill, then you get, so when I get my water bill, how long can I go before I pay it before my water's turned off?
You get it on usually the first of the month, and we shut off on the 25th,
the
unless that
next
falls
month.
on a Friday. No,
No,
that
same
month,
month?
same
Okay.
month. So you got about 25 days.
Okay.
And then if it's off still the next month, when the next billing cycle comes out, then we final out the account.
Once they are on shut off for 2 months, we final it out. So if it goes if they get shut off and then it goes a full another month and it comes to shut off time, we just final out the account.
Okay. How often do you have, when you finalize the account, how often do you have people come back in? So now they've had their water turned off for at least 30 days. How often does somebody come in and start it again?
It's not very common, but it does happen with truckers and people like that.
Yeah,
They'll
sure,
come
okay.
back and be like, oh, well, we've been gone on the road for 30 days. And so
Okay.
Would 90 days be unreasonable?
So I was thinking 90.
Yeah, I think that'd be,
Yeah.
I'm right up there with you.
Because their account is already.
It's closed.
yes.
and if they haven't paid their
Yeah.
bill in 90 days, they're not going to pay it in
Right.
a year or two. I mean, it's not getting paid.
Yes.
Nothing should be turned over, my recommendation. Nothing should be turned over until it's final.
Right.
Yeah, we won't do that.
Yeah.
My
And then-
question is once we turn it over, so I guess do they kind of work like collection agencies will just offer them to pay a settlement of like 50% of what the bill is, or are they going to have to collect all of it?
I think from what I read of the contract, it would be all of it. And
And then they give it
get-
to us.
They get a percentage. The
Right.
collection agency gets a percentage of that. Yeah.
So if they come back in and try to sign up for service while they have an account in collections, then what?
I would think that they would
Can't
have
do
to,
it until
they
they
can't
clear
do
it.
it until they clear it. Yeah.
If they collect, they're not going to turn it away. No collection agency will go, oh, I'm sorry, it's not the whole amount.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but they'll apply their percentage. They'll take their percentage and they'll remit.
But that's something we can ask. What I recommend is that we get a hold of them and several of us sat down and ask these questions. You know, Tom for the finance part, Charla also for dealing with, people coming in, and then you and Tim and maybe one of us. And then that way between all of us, I think we could probably cover all the questions.
90 days is fine with me. I guess we just submit a new file every 90 days.
And there was I think they use a spreadsheet format that Chad had gotten, so we would probably.
You'd do it every 30 days, wouldn't you?
You send a new batch every 30 days.
Yeah.
Not until the first 90
Right.
days.
Beginning, we wouldn't. would
No,
we?
no, right. But
Yeah.
after 90 days, every
Right,
30 days,
yeah.
you'd send them
But but we do want you to go back as far as the 2 years, right? Or do you just want to do one year?
Everything.
Yeah.
I'd say go back as far as you can.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a
Yeah.
lot hanging out
Yeah.
there.
Get the low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
We're going all the way.
Right, is-
Okay, so scenario, if we do this, we vote on this tonight for 90 days, then y'all ask your questions and you find out something, what do we do then?
How about if we get with them and get those questions answered and
What I was thinking, but
then come back to, we can call a quick special meeting if we need to.
And can they, remit their payment to the collection agency, or can they also come back
That's what
down here
we've
and
got to
pay?
find out, because that's where I've seen problems before.
I think I'd rather have those questions cleared first.
Mhm.
Wouldn't you, Amber? I mean, I think we need to answer those questions first
Oh, yeah.
before we
Yeah.
implement anything.
Exactly.
You
And
know,
they
I'd
may
like to
have some
implement-
recommendations too about how many
Yeah,
days
sure.
out that they need it, stuff. Okay, we'll do that then. We'll get, try to get a hold of them and get together and do that. I'm okay to do it, or if someone here would like to volunteer, I'll not turn that down. It'll have to be during the day though, probably. Okay, I'll take care of it then.
I'll just, I can do it, but I need to know when you want to do it.
Well, we'll have to get
If I
yeah,
can.
yeah, we'll try to get something together.
Does there need to be a vote on your 90 days?
No, we're gonna wait.
Okay.
We're gonna wait.
So we're going to table this.
Well, it wasn't on
Do
the
we-
agenda.
It wasn't on the agenda anyway. This was
Gotcha.
just a general question.
If you want it on the next agenda. I
Under
can put it on it.
finance, yeah, we may
Okay,
have a
gotcha.
special.
Do we need to put it on the next agenda? We'll see. what
We'll
happens.
see, yeah. All right, Tom, anything else?
No.
Okay. All right, moving right along. This was brought up at one of the last meetings. It's a water sewer policy amendment for service line repairs. And it was a recommendation at the time our director made that brought wastewater service up to the same level as we have on water. And I believe it's highlighted in your packet. The first part was to make sure I haven't missed any, no. This would be number 16, wastewater service line repair. That's highlighted that any customer service line issues identified by the Greenwood wastewater department, shall be notified to the property owner and any pertinent tenant outlining the issues. Upon reporting said issues to the customer, the guidelines of the city's minimum housing standards ordinance shall apply, and the responsible party of record will be required to make repairs within 30 days of the notice upon completion of the repair. The wastewater department shall be notified for inspection thereof. This is to handle situations like when we do the smoke test, or that they discover that there is a compromise in the wastewater service line that is on the customer side. It goes on to indicate that there could be a $25 assessed fee if not addressed within 30 days of the notice, and that further issues can go on if they don't get it taken care of. I think that is the main thing. Charlotte, do you remember anything else?
No, I just remember that Dalton said that he felt this needed to happen. He had written something out. I refined it and he loved what it said. So, I mean,
Yeah.
that's all I know really on it.
At that point in time, right there, it says that upon reporting said issue to the customer, the guidelines of the city's minimum housing standards ordinance shall apply, and the responsible party of record will be required. Do we, at that point in time, mail them our ordinance and say, this is what you got to comply with, or we just tell them, well, you got to comply?
And I know, is code enforcement involved in that? Is that the one that does that?
I
Or
don't
is it
know.
the building
that's right.
inspector?
I think it's code enforcement. It'd probably be a combination of code of enforcement and the director have to make the notification.
yeah, what is beyond it, I think is like AC's what happens next sort of a thing. Is that what?
Well, that's what I was thinking. To me, if we send them that, then they you're looking there and say, oh yeah, within 30 days of making these repairs, I've got to get the, inspection there. Or they just might just say, well, I remember the conversation. I made the repairs. I covered everything up, and oh yeah, it's been 3 months later or whatever.
It goes on to say all applicable permits for repairs must be obtained through the City of Greenwood Planning and Building
Oh, yeah.
Department. So it kind of brings in all aspects, I think, of the city
would-
that has to.
So the code enforcement officer would probably give them a copy of the ordinance and also like probably mail it with the certified return receipts showing the date and destination and all that, and assign, that we get assigned a signature that they received it. And then from that point, I guess, is when the days start counting. Then the planning and building would need to know then.
Right.
What's the deal on the $25?
I don't know.
I mean, that seems kind of, if you're trying to,
Doesn't seem like very much, does
Yeah,
it,
I
to
mean,
get it? Yeah, especially if it's several $100s that they have to pay.
are they just, is that like a token penalty or something?
I think that was one of the things that we kind of brought up. And boy, Tim, do you remember where he came up with that 25? Does it track with the water?
There's a couple of questions coming to my mind. Number one, we talked about permits, but typically a plumbing permit is required when it hits a certain dollar amount. I don't know what that dollar amount is now, but it used to be like somewhere in the neighborhood of, it seemed to me like it was more of 150, some like hot water tank would require plumbing, although no one does.
Yeah.
But, so there were smaller repairs that wouldn't require permit and so on. Read the part about the $25 diversions.
Says all applicable permits for repairs must be obtained through the City of Greenwood Planning and Building Department. Repairs left incomplete shall be assessed a fee of $25 if not finalized within 30 days of notice. And said fee shall be billed to the responsible party of record for each month up to 90 days from the date of original notification. If the issue remains unresolved after 90 days, the property owner shall become subject to regulations of the City of Greenwood abatement ordinance.
So that's, I read that as 75.
That's a penalty if you got it, you start it or don't start it, don't finish it, don't charge you $25 your first month, next month you don't do it again.
And the third month.
Abatement ordinance.
Yeah, I don't know what the abatement ordinance is, but it sounds, and that is a pretty small penalty. It wouldn't scare me if I was looking at a $2,000 sewer line replacement.
Yeah, it wouldn't scare me.
But again, I don't know what y'all are trying to just whack it out of the park, people struggling to get.
I think where we left this was that at the time, the director was going to kind of run it by the building department, the planning and building department, and maybe refine it. And that's probably where it's been dropped. So if we would like to,
What would we do if they didn't need a permit to make the repair?
that's kind of what he
Yeah.
was saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, there used to be a dollar amount, and it's probably changed as inflation's changed, there used to be a dollar amount. In other words, if you're a homeowner, and you fix your outside faucet, you go to Jaegers, you ain't gotta get a permit for that, but if you're doing something major. plumbing,
But for a sewer line, that's probably going to mean major.
From our meeting with Travis Plummer, Dalton stated there's the two things would take the majority of these. One's a whole line replacement, which you would need a permit for. The other, which he said was more common, be a larger number, was just replacing a cap on the clean out.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that you wouldn't require one for that.
How much does,
If the plumber comes out, they're gonna charge you for it.
Yeah, but you can go get,
Yeah, you
One of
said
those
you go to
caps.
Jaegers and get a new cap.
Well, sometimes it's not just a cap, but it's broke.
Mhm.
Replace the whole-
right.
You have to replace the whole T.
about how much would that cost?
Well, the parts probably under $50, but if you hire a plumber,
Yeah.
it's probably more than-
There's some persons, if they're notified that they need to go down to Jaegers and get a cap on that, they're probably going to do that. Not, take the $25 fee,
There's some that a cap would fix it, but generally if the cap's missing, it's been hit with a lot more and the thing is damaged. We have an ordinance in play that calls for pop-offs to be installed on all new construction. It's supposed to be poured with a concrete collar around it to keep grass from getting in it, because it negates the pop-off and keeps the house from, the grass gets in it. I'm not sure I've seen one done right yet, but we're supposed, that's what's supposed to happen. And there's supposed to be accessible one out here on Cover's under a deck, something. So they put a concrete ring around it, but grass grows up in there and then it doesn't work out. Anyway, we're going down a rabbit hole now, but
Yeah.
it is a problem and I just don't know what's permittable and I don't know what the terms of the abatement. That sounds like some final action. But I don't know what the abatement is. I'm not familiar with it.
well, I
Look
can,
into it, go on with it.
yeah, we can look into it if you guys want to.
Well,
Type
I was
of
just thinking
another-
for the very minimum one, you said maybe like $50 or $75. I think the fee should be kind of equivalent to that to kind of give them, well, it's 6 of one or half a dozen the other. Yeah. So if I don't do it, I'm still gonna be out the same amount of money if I did do it.
Usually the fee grows as you, as the,
Well, it does monthly. It's a punitive thing. It's like you're saying, if you don't do this in 30 days, we'll give you 30 days, we're gonna charge you $25. So,
For 3 months straight, if you don't do it, 30, 60, 90.
right.
Well, I don't know. I think it's,
The abatement, which I'm not-
Yeah, I'd like to know what the abatement ordinance is.
After the 90 or if it just never gets done or whatever, it falls under the.
can you look to see if if you can find that abatement ordinance?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll see if she can find it and maybe help us.
We'll come back
Pete,
to
did you
that.
have any experience before with such a thing? Okay.
Just a thought though, what's the average sewer?
Average sewer.
Where's Amber?
I'm thinking that $25 may be like half of what the average sewer is.
Yeah, I think it'd be half or maybe slightly above half. Yeah.
So that just as a thought, that may be where the $25 come from. About
Yeah, that's-
half.
I have it up here.
I think he found this or he got someone else's and copied it. if I
It's-
remember. Okay.
It's the unsightly hazards ordinance, same one that we used to pursue the Storecraft building whole thing. That's the abatement ordinance, as far as I know.
And that pretty much gives the city the right to,
It lays out the methodology for when someone isn't doing what the city is trying to have it do.
or the city can take it over and do it and then charge it, or charge the. is that
that's
right,
after
Mary?
90 days.
Attempt. You can put a lien against stuff, can't you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think an attorney would need to opine whether that ordinance is good enough, because it really only talks about unsightly, like weeds, trash, mowing. And an attorney may say that that's not enough to try to impose upon someone for this kind of thing.
For a sewer line, yeah. Right, right.
So I think we should need to get Travis's opinion on whether or not the abatement ordinance, which Dalton may have talked to him. I don't
He did.
know.
And he talked about putting a lien on the property under some ordinance. It's been 3 or 4 months since we talked to him, but I can't swear it was the abatement ordinance. He talked about some existing ordinance that we used when properties needed repairs or
John, can you get back with Travis
Travis.
maybe
I
and,
sure will.
and let's clarify that since we don't have the original person here.
I think the fee should be kind of considered being raised to make it more of an incentive to do it as opposed to just kick it down the road.
Me personally, I would keep it low, and the reason why is you're gonna have that one group there that's making every effort to fix it. And instead of 30 days, it took them 40 days. And they're struggling, they're coming up with money, and they're probably maybe doing it themselves. And I think it's definitely punitive, but where would you stop? I mean, if you really want to get their attention, you make it 500. You know, I mean, it's a token punitive, and some people, maybe some it's not. But That's up to you guys.
The abatement fines are $25. That's why they set it at that.
It talks about a notice of order and being delivered to the person that the notice sets out what about the property needs abated, rectified.
I
So
know,
it may be.
I know that
applicable.
one of our issues was how to handle the tenant versus the landlord issue. And I think that was going to be addressed, and I don't think that.
So the
Well,
$25, if it goes to the abatement ordinance after 90 days, and that's $25, right? That's what you just said, Chad?
Every 10 days.
Oh, every 10 days.
You could enforce it every 10 days.
Well, but still, if it was going to be a $3,000 or $4,000 repair, it wouldn't really make sense to get in any big rush. I mean, if it's only going to cost you $50 a month, or well, $75 a month.
You know, it's $75 for 3 months.
3 months.
Well, no, but then he said it's $25 every 10 days after that.
yeah,
So that's $75 a month.
yeah.
That's still not much. I mean, if I'm just thinking like one of my property, if I had a $5,000 bill that I'm going to have to spend and it cost me $75 a month just to push it on down the road, am I going to fix it right away or?
And that kind of defeats our purpose. We need it fixed.
Well,
'cause
I'm
Yeah.
just thinking too, if our
Water.
purpose is trying to fix these repairs,
Yes.
get them fixed so that prevent that, I think that's infiltration is
Right.
one of our biggest problems, you
A
know, that I
safety
think we
issue.
want to make it
Can we not
incentive to try to fix it as opposed to.
close their account? So, I mean, I know we can't like.
We
close their-
discussed that with Travis, and that's what Dalton originally wanted to do is we would cut off service. You can't cut off sewer service. There's no valve. So he wanted, we cut off water service. And Travis thought that since these type of repairs are not normal, you normally pay your water sewer bill every month. So you disconnect for non-payment is kind of a normal thing, but this disconnecting for this type of thing is not common and normal. And therefore you might have a health and safety issue by cutting people's water and sewer service off. So he didn't want us to go that direction.
Well, are you guys okay tabling this and let John kind of refresh his memory and ask these questions again
Yes.
with?
Yeah.
It
I was
does
just
say-
wondering, another thing is that, let's say it is a big repair, you know, like saying a person just says, well, $25, I'm going to kick this thing around, or
Mhm.
I'm going to try to put this property up for sale and let it be the new owner's, problem. I was wondering, is there anything like, again, that we work with the building inspector and say, yeah, they don't get I don't know, is there a way that we can, prevent the sale or something like that? If you say, you've got to bring this up to standard before you buy the house, or
Most of the time, a home inspector will take care of that.
If they know about it.
They know.
And if there's a realtor
That's their
involved,
job, is to
the home
find out.
inspectors get blind sometimes when there's a realtor involved, my experience.
Well, we could, John could do that, and I can also talk to the water, or the planning department and get some of their input on this too, because we're probably gonna have to, involve them on some of it, if that's okay.
It does say any unsanitary thing in here as far as the scope of all the things that you could abate property for. So I think that would fit.
Sewer, yeah,
Yeah.
would definitely.
That's
be
probably, I mean,
Yeah.
I figure that he did get
Health and
Travis's
safety.
approval that this
Yeah.
is the process, and that's probably why it's in here.
Okay.
But yeah, refreshing memory is good.
Yeah.
So you want to table it?
Yes, please.
Oh, we need a motion.
Okay, can I have a motion to table this?
I make a motion we table.
Okay, second.
We have a motion and a second. Call for a vote.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Selkirk?
Yes.
Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Okay. All right, back to Tom. Tom, the 2023 water wastewater audit report.
You have a copy of it, and I gave you all one. It is numbered on the bottom right-hand corner, the page numbers. As I go through here, I'll be referencing them. There's only a few things that I'm going to highlight in this audit. This has been already presented to the city council, so they are already aware and have approved this report. As far as the copies that you have, they're yours. You can take them back, look them over if you want, and in detail. If you have any questions, just feel free to give me a call, and I'll be more than happy to explain or get an explanation for you on something that you want to take a deeper dive in. As far as the first page, it'll be I think the second or third page in. It's called the first page. It's the independent auditor's report. Anybody that's in the business or finance always looks to see what the opinion was. And it says, in my opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the city of Greenwood, Arkansas Water and Sewer Fund as of December 31st, 2023, and the changes in the financial position and cash flows for the years then ended in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States. That is an unqualified opinion. That's exactly what we look for. So that was good. I will then turn to some of the nitty gritty details that are of some importance for me when I look at these. Page 3 is the actual start of the balance sheet. You'll see your asset page there. I draw your attention down to the restricted assets, primarily because I want you to see the cash in bank. That's primarily your city sales and use tax for water sewer fund. You have also the bond reserves and the construction funds. As of 23, it's really difficult when you're in 25 to get you to go all the way back to 23 and think about what the financials were over a year ago. It's hard for a lot of people to kind of follow. I really am trying to push these audits to get earlier in the year. I know the legislative audit is a hard thing to do in that respect because they have so many entities that they have to deal with and so few auditors to do it. So we have routinely been scheduled in and around September, and their audits take about as long as yours. Bill Boyd gets I think legislative audit and the water sewer audits were started right at the same time this year. So I had them both going at the same time frame. And they concluded just about the same time. The difference is the legislative audit has to go before the audit committee in order to be reviewed and final out. But yours doesn't. Yours comes to us directly from Bill Boyd, and I think we got it at the end of the year in December, I think, somewhere that time frame, because we were able to give this presentation in January to City Council. As far as your, when I first started, your cash in bank was $1,677,000. That was back in 2017, August. So your August 2017 balance was that. Your current balance as of the end of 23 was $5,479,000. That is a 227% increase in your cash in bank. But it's not uncommitted money. That's what you have to remember. It is committed money. You have projects all up and down this great city of yours and ours that is looking for a piece of that money to be used to fund some of these capital infrastructure projects. You're going down to the depreciation line on your capital assets. Yeah.
Just one caveat about that is, while it's committed money, there is every potential in the world, since they've been kind of postponed, that they may be, we have to add money to them to complete the project or whatever.
Yeah, the original budgets have grown on those projects with additional costs being added to it. Yeah, there is just if you took inflation factor, your project's going to cost more if you haven't already secured the materials and secured the contracts and bids, and you're locked into something. That's going to cost you at least the rate of inflation just for the cost of goods and services. So projects that are committed money but not started, in other words, it's in the budget, it's being carried over, has that potential. Your depreciation on your assets, which gives you kind of an indication as to whether you're going to be replacing some, and usually you keep that around a third. You start thinking of, if it's over 30% or over 35%, you're starting to say that about a third of our assets probably need to be looked at. They do a great job of maintaining their vehicles and their equipment. You started at the end of 2022, your depreciable percentage was 36.7%. Your depreciated amount now is 38%. So they are getting older, but you are replacing as you go along. I think on the budget for the 24, you were just a little over $500,000 in actual hard assets purchase. That was the budget, a little over $500,000. There's some departments, that's their annual budget for equipment. Now, as far as the liabilities are concerned, I want to talk to you about the long-term liabilities. On this, you'll see in 2023, the long-term debt liability was $1,340,000. That's that water bond. At the end of 24, that number is now $1,245,000. And I will also let you know that there's some legislation in, because we are looking to potentially do some bonds. You have an enormous amount of projects that will exceed your revenue stream capacity at that 1%. It would have to take enormous growth in the tax base in order for you not to have to go after some form of financing. And if you go the bond route, I received a public finance market watch from Raymond James, and they're saying the House Ways and Means Committee, and this is national, released a list of potential revenue raisers to pay for at least part of a large reconciliation bill later this year. Some of the options that are in that under consideration in that bill under consideration are elimination of the exclusion of interest on state and local bonds and ending tax preferences on other bonds, which include private activity bonds and Build America bonds. However, it goes on, it says, as municipal market participants know, that would be us, this would be detrimental to communities throughout our nation, as tax-exempt bonds provide a crucial tool that enables state and local governments to fund essential infrastructure projects efficiently and affordably. And the key is the affordably. And it goes on the next page saying that there's steps that you could take and actions that you could take to advocate for the preservation of the tax-exempt bond status. And that's what we go after, the tax exempt bonds. All that investment monies that are sitting there and actually going to help us pay down earlier the actual debt, almost as though it's additional paid in capital, that would all be taxed as income to the city if you don't have tax exempt bonds. So I just wanted to mention that. If you go down to your net position on that same page, page 4, the invested in capital assets net of related debt, restricted is the city sales and use tax water account. Unrestricted is the water and sewer O&M. So that's where those balances come from. And at the end of the year in 23, you had sitting in your city sales and use tax $5,600,000. And water O&M combined, water and sewer, was $1,500,000. As far as the next page, page 5, the operating revenues, we had a little bit of a decrease in the operating revenue side. The total, there's a lot of factors for that in 23, but I have to go back and see just what specifically caused that. I would say that the revenue was flat for 23.
22, we had a huge year in water sales due to the extreme drought. So
Could be.
that's
Could be.
what probably caused the 23 drop.
So what you're saying, and it's in a different form, is that the anomaly was in 22. 23 reflected probably a normal growth, which is feasible. Very good. Total operating expenses. We had an increase of 16.3% in the operating expenses. One of the things you have to look up there at the top is the depreciation. Depreciation is not a cash item. So we will be taking that out on the last page, and I'll show you how it factors into whether you're profitable or not for 23. The operating loss was $1,400,000, and that's combined for water and sewer. That's 86.2% increase from the $700,000 in 2022. Now let's go to the end of year cash balances. You'll see we were flat. Our cash balance as of in page 6 was $7,069,000. In it was $7,168,000 in 23. The total cash in bank increased 1.4%. Again, going with that anomaly statement, it's saying that 22 was probably the anomaly year in that, causing that 1.4% increase. So there's the number side of it. I'm going to go and show you on the last page a breakout to show which was more profitable, water or sewer, and what is then back to the combined, and how that's calculated for a bond covenant. As far as the water and sewer notes to the financial statements, you can read through those. There's some that I want to point out specifically. The depository accounts, we have the same finding in the legislative audit side for the rest of the city. It says that the city maintains depository accounts with 2 local banks in excess of FDIC coverage. The amount of the FDIC coverage December 31st was 23 was 6.5 million, and 6.5 million also in 22. These deposits are fully collateralized with securities the banks have pledged against these excess deposits. When I first started, that wasn't the case. We actually had to, Charlotte and I had to go down there and hold them to the collateralization agreement that we had because watching it. And so now, ever since then, back in 2018, I think it was latter part of 2018 or 19, where they invest those and they watch that every single month. So I get a monthly report showing what those investments are. The problem with it is they don't mention here is a secondary collateral risk. And that's where what they invest in is not collateralized to protect our portion of that investment. So if they do a fully 100% collateralized investments, such as treasury bills or something like that, we're covered. But what that if there's failure on what they're investing in to the tune of about 50%, according to the legislative audit, then we're at risk. Now, it's not a finding for us because we're meeting the requirement that we have to be having the banks provide market value collateralization for our funds on deposit. The account receivable, I'm sure this note is going to be updated primarily due to what you're doing regarding the collection agency. Because right now it's not referencing that because of 24, but that will be a subsequent event and it'll be listed in the 24 audit. Let's see, I already talked about that. On page 10, we talk about compensated absences. These are what's on the books that will have to be paid out given a person's retirement or any kind of leave if they were to quit or if they were terminated. These are parts for the comp time and the benefits that are payoutable to the tune of it may be capped. You can get so much of your vacation if you leave under a certain circumstance, the things. Mandatory compensated benefits are what's in there as well. So you're 89,000 for 23. So they book that so that if there is people that leave, we can't say, no, we're not going to pay you. That's owed. Down on the non-operating revenue, the changes in capital assets, you'll see the additions were 26.8%. So it is showing that they are replacing things in 23. They had additions of, as you see, the water distribution system, 667,000, sewer collection was 25,000, and equipment was 417. There was one deletion of 18,000 during the year. And your value of your assets, all in, building included, was $33,486,000. It's just something nice to know. Then when you go to your long-term debt, I did point out the balance there. So I've already talked about it. Last thing is on page 12, before we get into some more notes and the calculations, is the bond covenant says the fund failed to meet the 110% coverage requirement for 22 and 23. And it says the fund conducted, this wasn't normally in there, but I had a discussion with Bill when I saw the original draft of these notes. What was missing was the fact that we took steps. They didn't mention that in this report. And these reports go to the bond companies and they want to know, well, what are you doing about it? And so I made them reconsider and gave him some of the verbiage that shows that we took a study on. And so it says the fund concluded a study of rate revisions required to bring the fund back into compliance. A two-phase rate increase was approved during 23, first phase being the usage rate increase effective January of 24. The second phase will be a fixed rate increase to cover debt service costs that will be implemented in 25, both of which happened. So that helps when they review this. They're not as concerned with the covenant that we didn't meet in 23. And the fact that we weren't meeting that is when we started our discussions about raising the sewer rate back when COVID hit, and then we postponed it. As far as the,
So we'd need that terminology in there in order to, if we do seek bonding, and they're going to look at that and say, oh, y'all weren't meeting, so what makes you think you're going to meet it with this bond or something?
well,
That'd been detrimental.
the bonding company for the bond we have could pull it, could call it. They think we're at risk because we're a sinking ship in their minds, but that's not the case. There's a lot of things and a lot of factors that make you a little bit different from a municipality that does not have a 1% permanent sales tax for capital. And you do. And we also have the ability to raise the rates, and we took the step to do that. The state kind of helped too, mandating that. Down on the bottom of, no, I'm not going there. Down on the bottom on page 13, it says the following details of descriptions and amount of restrictions on net position. So the restricted for repayment of customer deposits, that's our meter deposit account. And one of the things I want to mention there is that we're seeing less and less final out checks that go where the deposit covers the final bill. And if the deposit covers the final bill and there's still a balance left in that deposit account, we rewrite a check and send it to them. That used to be significant. There used to be 3 or 4 times that amount, but we're seeing 1 or 2 now. And a lot of that has to do with some of these final bills for which this deposit's being applied against. We're having to continue to send them a bill for the residual amount that doesn't covered by the meter deposit. And there's been some discussion about that here. The restriction for bond repayment, that's the water bond account, and that's all in your budgets. Restricted for construction and capital improvement is your CSUT tax fund. Just so you can identify those. And I'm going to go right back to the last supplemental page. When I started,
is that?
it's the 16 supplemental page. Okay, when I started, page 16. This was all consolidated. They didn't actually break out individually what the water department's profitability was versus the sewer. So it was very difficult to determine who was in need and who wasn't in need. And because your rate structure was a little different for both, we really needed to see this. So I instructed Bill Boyd to include in his audit a breakout by individual groups plus consolidated of where is the bleed, where is the, in this case, it's both. But you'll look at the amount that's listed for the operating loss on the middle of the page where it says operating loss, 742,000. That's not the number that goes into the bond covenant because we have to remove the non-cash item from that. So the non-cash item would be that depreciation amount of 479,000. So when you take that out of that loss of 742,000 on the water side, the actual operating loss was 262,000. You do the same for sewer. They had an operating loss of 661, take 276 of that, and your revised loss was 384. And that's where, if you did the same for the combined, 1,000,004 less 756,000 is 646,000. But all that is just to say, that's why you had a rate study. And we already knew that that's where the direction was. And the new rate, I wanted to point this out too. The new rate builds in the debt service into the rate for any potential bond financing. It also has in it the CPI operating inflationary cost, which would keep us from having to not do as dramatic of a rate increase at the end of the 5-year period. And it also builds in a contingency reserve. So we talked about that with all the other departments because you should pay yourself first so you don't get into this situation for these events that happen where it was an unbudgeted, unplanned major expenditure that's not covered by insurance. So, and then if you go into the final page 17, 18, and 19, these are the management reports, 19 and 20. Significant audit findings, no transactions were identified that were of a significant nature that was not recorded on our books. So everything that they would be looking at that's material, we recorded and we recorded it appropriately. Difficulties encountered performing the audit? None. That's what I like to see because we like to work with them. As a matter of fact, we provide them all the things we know routinely they're going to need. Disagreements with management? None. We work very well with him. We provide him. He provides explanations for the way that he's recording certain transactions, and he works with me very well. As far as page 19 is concerned, we always have that segregation of duty issue. And it says there are steps utilizing available staff that help minimize fraud and other risks. Management has already established controls to limit these incompatible duties given the staff size, meaning somebody's doing something that, according to the segregation of duties models, they shouldn't be doing both parts of that transaction. Well, we have other controls, and we call those mitigating controls that remove that risk, or at least help limit the risk. And then the last page is pretty much a summation of everything I told you regarding the bond covenant and the shortage for the 2016 bond. And that's the highlights of the audit.
Okay, anyone have any other additional questions?
No.
Well, I guess one thing you just said that regarding deposits, that number kind of reserve is getting smaller and smaller. So is that something that, we need to earmark, like, I mean, we're already hitting them for, rate increases, but like maybe next year or toward the end of this year, we need to maybe look at, what kind of deposits we're requiring.
That's totally up to you guys. The deposit is a security blanket to avoid a large amount rolling into the 60-day and shutoffs, because that's what they'll skip on, is that. And the caveat is you can use to mitigate some of that loss. You can use that deposit against it, but that just lowers the amount that kicks into the accounts receivable. So it's up to you. I mean, you're right. You're going to put a little bit more burden on those that are signing up for water, and that's for you to discuss.
We have
Discuss.
discussed it.
Yeah.
We did raise some.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we raised some of it, and I think to the point that Alex and maybe even Jim had mentioned, it probably would be too burdensome, especially
With the rate
people who are renting.
increases. Yeah, I totally agree.
How much is it now?
100, I think we went up $25.
Yeah, I think-
It's different for a renter versus homeowner. It's $25.
We did go up on some of the way the commercial opens up
Yeah, that's
their
right.
accounts and stuff.
I bet too many numbers in my head.
But she just left, I think. But yeah, we have
Okay.
discussed that. Okay, that's all. We'll move right along then. Do what?
You can, yeah. Maybe
All right.
motion approved.
I'll make
I
a,
mean, are you gonna do the ARPA one next?
I'm going to talk about that because ARPA one has no bearing on water sewer at all.
Okay, then we don't need to hear about it.
No, it's not. There's nothing in ARPA that
Yeah.
is.
Anyway, just as a formal thing, yeah, motion to approve
Yeah,
the
let's-
audit report.
yeah, let's go ahead and get a
Make a motion to approve the audit report?
I second it.
Call for a vote, please.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Selkirk?
Yes.
Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I just want to quickly move on to tell you that our interim wastewater plant manager, Vernon Wilkie, is started up at the plant. I have not had a chance to talk to him since I've gotten back, but I will do that and let you guys know. But he was taking that on until we can
I have a
Hirschman.
question to John.
Yes.
John, when you talked to him about filling in,
All right.
did he express any interest in wanting the job?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I have.
When I talked to him, I encouraged him to apply.
Okay.
Then also, one of the things that did come up, and it was a concern of his, is the current salary schedule. And I know the council has, did you say that they have approved the one that we have now?
Yes,
It's in your packet.
the approved one is 125-01. You have a copy, and then the one that has a red copy on it is the one with the adjustments for water sewer.
But I had talked to a couple councilmen that said, we might need to look at that, and I think we probably do. And Vernon is very dissatisfied with how his position, how he gets paid and how he's capped out and everything. But I told him that we have discussed as a commission, looking at what,
Is that his previous position or what he's doing now?
both.
Okay.
Well, let me
And where's
qualify
he
that.
at? And where's he at now?
Well, we
I mean,
can,
before. Where was he at before?
What was it?
I'll have to look at that.
59,000 something. I thought.
Yeah,
Which is-
59.
That was in 24, I think.
It's listed on there.
Yeah, where's it at?
It's in the wastewater foreman.
Wastewater,
Yeah, I didn't know what his,
wastewater plant
Wastewater,
foreman.
he's maxed out.
yeah,
Okay.
he's maxed out. And that's
Okay.
one of the things
Gotcha.
that,
It
Okay.
was 59, probably, I guess that's this year. Is this this year, Charlotte?
they just approved it. Council did, yeah.
Cost of living.
Mhm. That's basically what's it. Anyway, I
Okay.
told him that as a commission that we have discussed that we need to review our side of this and make sure that we're in line with the area and our competition as well. And so I would like to propose that we maybe have some work sessions on this if everybody's okay. Chad's gotten some numbers for us. John got some numbers for us from Municipal League. We may want to look at a few more areas and discuss our matrix here and if we need to do something. We do need to amend the water plant. And I thought we did that, Tim.
Well, you guys, a study session.
For,
Charlotte might could answer this.
for water plants.
To me, it's like
Super-
putting on two pairs of shoelaces. Once y'all approve it, then Charlotte says it has to go before them again. And my question is, what if they disapprove it and y'all approve it,
Yeah, I think we're according to the,
So it depends on who you ask, but I guess because they have it it probably should be off of that resolution thing, because they have it in a resolution format. It wouldn't jive with ours. But you guys did approve, Pete's position.
Plant superintendent.
It was approved in the budget, so effectively, the council did approve the budget and that number in the budget, as well as Amber's, we bumped
I
her
remembered that, yeah,
position.
administration.
And also had one little garbage correction I was gonna put in there on the equipment operation.
Okay.
Or omission, actually. But
So I think
I'll
probably
speak to that. Maybe she wants to.
what we probably need to do is have a work session and sit down with our directors and look at this and make sure that we feel like we're in line. One of the issues that we come up with is that a lot of times the employees in one department think that they should be treated equal on pay in the other department, but sometimes those responsibilities are not the same, even though that they see it's the same.
For the most part, they all mirror each other, even starting out the water office. A wastewater one and a water operator one are the same, two are the same, three are the same, foreman one the same, foreman two is the same, and wastewater and water. I can tell you that the duties are different. some are more than others, and depending on who you ask, obviously. But we try to mirror that, and even in the water office, it starts out when they're saying, and then as the duties change, where Vernon's a little bit disrupted, he sees this big gap, but he doesn't have the level of responsibility a director has. And so, there's that too. He doesn't, a lot of people, work comes and goes home.
We probably shouldn't discuss individual employees.
Yeah, let's not discuss, they bring that up. But yeah, what we probably need to do is look at it as a whole and how we need to compare it. And I think the max out is discouraging to a lot of the employees that have talked to me. And I don't know how you address that because you have to have a max, but it kind of, when you're talking about people who've been here 15,
Yeah,
20
that's the
years.
point, is you're top heavy on the top end.
Yeah, that makes a problem. But the other thing we've discussed is that we want to be proactive in awarding people for getting more certification and training. And so that may be somewhere where we can start addressing some of that. So that we have plenty of people that can step in when we need and take on to those. And as been brought up to us, we're probably looking at several that's going to have a 4 designation if the city keeps growing. Would that be okay if I set up a study session just for that?
Yes.
Session? Okay. All right. Well, I'll get with Charlotte and we'll look at the calendar and then send out a feelers to see what time you guys can meet.
And unless y'all want to just set one right now.
Yeah, we can do that.
Does anybody want to look at their calendar? Would you like it sooner rather than later?
Yes.
Would you like it before the next council meeting?
That would.
'Cause that would be this week.
Yeah.
I have a question. This is already set as far as the budget's concerned, correct?
Yeah, this would be looking for next year's budget.
Okay, that's what I
Yes,
want to hear.
yes.
Okay.
Well-
So we've got plenty
well-
of time.
On the salary matrix, you've got positions that are not on it right now.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to achieve, is to put all positions on this thing.
So that's
There's
one
a
thing we need to.
A couple of
update.
them that aren't on there right now that are employed, but their positions are changed. Yes, the budget allows everything to go forward. They're getting paid no matter what. But we'd like to have the salary matrix reflect every position at the city.
So when you say there's some positions in the wastewater area that are not on here?
Yeah, there's 2.
Okay.
Well, we approved the assistant administrator, right?
Yeah, we approved.
And we also approved
This body approved it.
plant superintendent.
The salary matrix apparently goes before the council. And again, that's just a gray area with me. To me, it's certainly, it's called, if you group it in there with that resolution of the rest of the employee, Charlotte says it needs to go before.
Okay.
So they have, even though they approved it in the budget, and I mentioned it to them, the budget study.
Budget study.
Study. I mentioned it to them and everybody was okay with it. And the council even has a representative here at every meeting, so.
Well, and on that note, AC, do you not agree that if they do things outside of this resolution, like we have, if they have their own salary schedule, I mean, then why do we have it?
Well, yeah, I think that still it's all still, part of the city's budget, so I think it still has to, kind of have it needs to be included in this,
Here's
because
where
I
the
think
rub is this commission, as you know, has its own authority over its employees.
they do.
They do. And then so that's why the little blurb is in this salary matrix down at the bottom on section 3, where it says that the exception of the City of Greenwood Water and Wastewater Commission and the City of Greenwood Parks Commission, who by law are self-governing over their own employees. That's why it says that down there. It's requested that the commissions adhere to these parameters in setting salaries. So that is known. And so the rub is they layered and redundant. They need to do what they need to do, but yet we have to go back to the council.
I
do
don't
this.
think we have too much problem with that. Does anybody? I mean,
Well, I mean, it feels,
it
and-
does. It, yes.
and also what would happen if the council said, no, I don't like that, you know, but
Yeah.
they really can't do anything about it. But,
Well, we could, you know, we could make a thing where we eliminate the commission.
well,
bring it
and
back
that's
under
what
the
I
mayor's.
always say. I say, you know, don't go too far out there because with a stroke of a pen, it comes back to an advisory committee. But I'm just saying for the record, that is why.
Well, I've talked
Well,
to
I have an
a
issue.
couple council members and they said, you know, they told me we like that we're doing this and that we, you know, come back to them because they don't know. They don't know what our area is paying for these parts. I mean, one thing that's different with us is that we've got the water and sewer, you know, so we can't shut it.
All this is saying that I don't think we've ever, you know, have talked about necessarily what the minimum and maximum are, you know, because that gives, you know, you the range, you know, to do, you know, and if you feel like you need to, you know, bump up the maximum, you know, I think that unless it's just to me, you know, imagine, you know, because I mean, I've been always impressed on how as commission, you know, run things, especially salary administration, you know, you've just done, you know, very, very good job. But just like I was saying, like Tim was just even in the commission here, you said sometimes there's maybe disagreements between, you know, water and wastewater, you know, and that's why you said that's why we work hard to try to make them about the same because, you know, it will cause friction or something like that, you know, and I'm thinking there would be friction among, you know, if we saw that, the commission can, you know, they do their own thing and they don't, you know, have any regards to the, you know, the rest of the, you know, city employees, you know, I think, and like I said, I'm not saying that, I'm just saying that's a, you know, hypothetical and stuff. So I think that's the reason why it still has to come back to the city. But I think again, anything that's, you know, reasonable, you know, I think that we say, you know, in our mind, it's just a minimum maximum and stuff. That y'all really set the salary in between that.
Okay. All right. Anyone have any suggestions on dates? Let's go here and look at.
Do y'all prefer
Well, no matter
Monday
what we do, it won't go into effect until the next budget, right?
Oh, yeah, right.
So, I mean-
So we're not pressed for
Yeah.
time.
Are you
Yeah.
talking about this salary matrix?
Uh-huh.
No, this can be readopted by the council to get it correct after y'all study on it and
Yeah.
make changes to it.
We
It just goes right
probably-
to the council for
Yeah.
adoption, for formal adoption as the city's salary matrix.
It's already part of it's already in fact. It's been receiving that amount.
That's why I said though,
Did not go
if-
before the council.
When in February do you want to
Maintenance
meet?
format.
well, it's just HR would really like this
I mean,
to reflect
really,
all
I mean,
positions.
Let's-
if
let's-
it takes 2 months or
Yeah,
10 months.
we'll just do what we have to do. Is there any regular meetings on the 5th?
Of February?
Mhm.
No. It's a Wednesday night. No.
Wednesday night, is that a problem for anybody? It might
I'm
be.
not here.
Huh?
Yes.
I'm not here.
You're
problem.
not there.
That's a
Okay,
problem.
okay, that's a problem. I know Mondays nights are the best for Chad, right? Chad? Is that still pretty much your
It
schedule?
depends. Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
it's fine right now.
Monday the 10th.
The 10th?
Yes.
Is that good?
Yeah. I could probably do that.
6 o'clock?
Yes.
All right.
I'll try to keep them minimum.
This on there. You don't need anything else to
Right,
discuss as a group.
right. Just,
Because I could put another subject on there if you really need to talk about something else.
I think that's gonna take up a lot of time to do. All right, with that being said, I would like to go into executive session for a brief moment and ask Tim to go in if I could have since it's on the agenda, we don't have to have a.
You do have to have a vote going into executive
Okay.
session.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's right.
I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
All right, Mr. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. Reynolds,
Yes.
Selkirk.
Yep.
Mr. Bailey.
Yes.
Unanimous. Pausing.
We'll be right back.
Must be getting colder outside.
I'm going to call the meeting back to order. No action needs to be taken from the executive session. Before we go on, is there anything else
I
that,
would like to make a motion that we accept resolution number 125 to make the changes to the pay schedule that are highlighted on the resolution.
okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Okay. Now this will be the copy that was provided to us from Charla. And it says copy at the top, and it has the highlighted where we ask, adding the customer service supervisor, admin 2, and water plant superintendent categories to the,
And it'll go on the February meeting of the city council if this passes. Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Selkirk?
Yep.
Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Unanimous.
oh, okay. Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Very welcome.
Okay. Anything else from anyone? Oh, we need the reports. I'm sorry.
Do it fast. I haven't eaten.
Hurry up.
Everything's great.
Yeah, that's great.
So something new has come up. I'll make it real brief. That's all I'm going to say. Our dam permit is due. Apparently they're due every 50 years. The last one was done in 1988. If any of you know what the name of our dam is, please let me know. Or if you know of any historical records, please let me know. Apparently it's quite a process. They tell you have to hire an engineer. I've got to participate in a class to do some of the paperwork. My engineer also has to participate in the class. And not only is it specialized engineer work, it's special engineer. I think Shannon and Williams or Shannon and Wilkins, I'm not sure of the last name. They're the specialist in that area that they're going through. And the first deadline is March of 2025. We have to submit the application, and that's in and of itself. So this is something Greg had never heard of. I've never heard of. We're not the only ones. Mulberry is also in the same boat with us. I'm not sure if Fort Smith is or not. There's another, Paris, I believe is. So it's kind of a big deal, but
I've
it's just
got records. So
Do you?
can
Great.
look at- I've got some.
great. So we'll probably be needing those. Other than that, we're plugging away. There are a lot of things to get initiated and started. And the thing that I was talking about, the chlorine dioxide, I can probably figure out a way to use. I have a quote in there, and it is a little over 50,000 when you add up the labor and the trips and so on. So we'll just put that out for bid. We'll figure that out. But other than that, we're just getting now that the budget's been passed, we're just going to proceed forward with the projects at hand, and hopefully we're going to make as big a dent as we can in everything we've got on the books and try to get as much done as possible. Any questions?
Pete, you want to address a?
Oh, yeah, I had a phone call today. Never had one like this before. The guy says, "Do you have fluoride in your water?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, my wife and I are relocating, and we just want to know because we're not moving there if you have fluoride in your water." And I said, "Well,
State
we
law,
do,
isn't it?
and it's mandated."
Yeah, it's not
And I
ours.
think it's mandated mainly for smaller cities. I don't know, but
Yeah.
apparently he's in Oklahoma. I thought it was a federal thing, but you're saying it's a health department.
It's state mandated.
Pardon?
There's a
It's
push to
mandated
get
by
rid of
state.
it.
Big story just came out on it.
Yeah.
So, any rate, so depending on what happens, Pete said that it could, we may be into a contract, even if it's eliminated, but I would think that could make the contracts potentially null and void, but I don't know. There's something, even if they repeal the law, me personally, I don't like fluoride. If you want fluoride, that's great, but don't make me take it because you want it. That's my take on it. But I'm not the guy that makes those decisions. There's pros and cons. People like it, people don't like it. I never figured out why dentists were for it. Seems like that'd be not helping your business. But, so I don't know, Pete. Did you have anything you want to add on that? On the fluoride? Be aware that we
decision to make, depending on what the new administration.
Right.
Yeah, so it seems like we're tethered in. Pete thought that we had a 3-year contract and we have completed 2 of those. So I don't really know politically what's coming down the pike on that, if that's repealed or whatever. I don't know it matters. I mean, worst case scenario, we may have to pay for a product that we're not using, or we may want to continue to use it. I don't know. Well, that's the next thing. If we don't have to use it and we're all set up to use it, do we keep using it? You know? I don't know if that's my decision to make for the health of the community, you know? So, at any rate, I just thought I'd mention that.
So everything going okay, Pete? Okay. He was telling me that today that he has some ideas that as we go and can replace it, maybe that might help us on some stuff. And okay. Mayor, do you have anything you want to
I
add?
thought you might say, you know, Jayhawker Dam, you know, to Jayhawker Lane.
Doug's Dam. Yeah. Okay. In that case, I'll entertain a motion that we adjourn.
I make a motion we adjourn.
Second? Anybody? Second?
Second.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, do we have to vote on this?